Okay, good morning and a very warm welcome to the Green Siege. This is our second session today and we're delighted that you can join us. My name is Lindsay Cunningham and I'm from NatWest. If you want to chat later, you'll see us on the big purple stand that is unmissable, but delighted to be with you here today. Our session today is from the First Movers Coalition and the topic is matching supply and demand for accelerating net zero solutions. The session's going to be 45 minutes and we'll probably have about 10, maybe 15 minutes at the very end for Q&A. So please have your questions ready and we'll come around with mics. So I'm delighted to welcome our moderator for today, Nathan Cooper. Nathan is Strategic Partnerships Lead at the World Economic Forum. Nathan, I'm going to hand to you, introduce the panel, and then off we go. Thank you.
Amazing. Great. Thanks a lot. Good morning, everyone. Really great to see everybody. Welcome to our esteemed panel, who I'll introduce just in a sec, and welcome to the audience as well. Today, we're at the Innovation Zero conference, and when we normally think about innovation, we really think through how we can push through technologies across the innovation curve, and how successive layers of concessionary finance, usually grant funding from governments and from public innovation agencies, can push through technologies. But we also see, and we all know, the infamous valley of death. So what we're trying to do now is discuss how not supply-led innovation, but actually demand-led innovation can help us overcome that valley of death and bring low-carbon technologies to scale. This is critical for climate because we know, according to analysis, that the majority of emission reductions across the hard-to-abate sectors, which now constitute over a third of global emissions, the majority of those emission reductions need to come from technologies that don't exist at commercial scale. They're not on the market, and usually there's a green premium associated with those technologies compared to the carbon-intensive alternative. So I'm really excited about a conversation on demand-led innovation today. We have some great representatives. We have Bruce Adderley, who is the director, the challenge director at Innovate UK across the hard-to-abate sectors. We have Magali Anderson, who's the Chief Sustainability and Innovation Officer at Holcim, one of the largest materials companies in the world, with 70,000 employees operating in over 70 countries. And we also have Christian Corsight as well, who's the Managing Director of Volvo UK. And Volvo Trucks is one of the largest trucking companies in the world. In terms of the First Movers Coalition, the organisation that I represent, we're all about demand-led innovation. So we launched at COP26 in Glasgow, just across the border, a year and a half ago. And the essence of First Movers Coalition is how do we leverage the demand power of private companies, of industry players across the hard-to-abate supply chains to really bring through the low-carbon technologies that we need to scale, to decarbonize the hard-to-abate sectors. And now we have 106 early demand signals across 7 hard-to-abate sectors, which represents over $12 billion in demand, pent-up demand for low-carbon technologies, which is really great. We're also partnering with 12 government partners, including the UK government. I'm really looking forward to partnering with public innovation agencies as well, like Innovate UK. So I will stop there. I will pass over to Bruce Adderley to talk us a bit through about the demand-led innovation piece and what you're doing in terms of Innovate UK. Over to you, Bruce. Great. Thanks a lot, Bruce. And some real excitement here in the UK in terms of applying demand-led innovation to help industry scale low-carbon technologies. So we're very excited about that. And you actually mentioned that there's really great examples, reasons to be hopeful, and signals of change as well when it comes to first movers who are putting money where their mouth is and investing in these low-carbon technologies. And we have here. But I wonder, Magli, if I could pass over to you in terms of, so you're spearheading the sustainability strategy for a major heavy manufacturing company. You exist as a supplier of heavy materials, but also as a procurer as well. So maybe I'll pass over to you to talk about your experience as a first mover.
Sure. So good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today, and I was very happy to hear you saying that you are going to put cement and concrete as a first priority. That's great to hear. So we will be back and talk again. But to answer your question, Nathan, yes, just to talk very, very briefly about Holcim. We are the largest building material company in the world outside China. And back in 2020, we did our first net zero commitment. Nathan called us a hard-to-abate sector. I actually don't like that name much. I much prefer to call it full of opportunities sector, because that's what we are. There's so much opportunities to reduce CO2. And the beauty of our sector is actually the majority of our carbon emission comes from our own process, Scope 1 and Scope 2. But we still have quite a large amount of emission coming from our Scope 3. So we decided back in 2020, when we did our net zero commitment, validated by SBTi, that we would take a target for Scope 3, even though at the time, no one in our sector had ever done it. But we transport a lot of products, and we do about 2 billion kilometers of transportation per year. So sometimes I think we are just a major logistic company that is transporting cement around the world and then making cement just to transport it. So we've figured out that a good quarter of our emission was in that Scope 3 emission, was in that transportation. And we decided that we had to take a target on it. So we took a target, but then we do everything we do is using a action plan, making sure we can deliver, etc. Making a target is not good enough. And we tried to map who were the truck suppliers that could deliver net zero trucks for us to reach that target. And we realized that there was not many on the market. Forget the price, just availability was not there. So when the FMC started at the COP26 about a year and a half ago, that's why we joined in straight away. And Volvo was the first people we talked to. That was great that we are here together. And it was really the discussion, okay, so I'm committing that by 2030, every third truck I will buy will be net zero. I'm making that commitment. And it's a public commitment. You find it on our website. But I need you, Volvo, or you, Christian, to give me those trucks, because it's fine of me to commit on that, but if I don't find the trucks, I won't be able to do it. And that is where I think the magic of FMC is working, because now I'm giving Volvo the confidence I'm doing it. And it's a pure timing coincidence, but on Monday this week, we actually announced, I believe you have to confirm to me that it's the biggest deal so far. So we just signed a commitment of buying 1,000 net zero trucks to Volvo by 2030. And it is the biggest commitment so far. So it's really showed that by having this understanding that we both commit to do it together, he is confident, and I will let you talk, but by saying, yes, I will buy your trucks, I guess that helps you to develop your trucks. Well, I will hold you accountable for that.
Great, thank you. So the biggest procurement of electric trucks ever in history.
Big trucks.
Big trucks. We're not talking about zero emission vehicles. Yes, it is one thing, but because heavy trucks are still classed as, I was going to say hard to abate there, but full of opportunities. So the biggest procurement of heavy trucks. And actually, maybe that's a good point to pass over to you, Christian. Your Volvo again sits across the supply chain. So you've actually joined First Movers Coalition as a supplier of electric trucks, but also as a key procurer of near zero emission steel as well. Talk to us about your experience as a first mover, please.
First of all, thank you, Nathan, for giving us the opportunity to talk to this audience, not on commitment that we jointly have, decarbonize completely. We take it close to heart. In everything, it takes several partners to achieve the goal of net zero. The infrastructure development that will power up the need customers that are not only delivering the service but also bringing impact. But it also demands a conviction of everybody in the value chain, and we take part of that, decarbonize completely the transport industry. And it is, of course, I have a very privileged CEO last 1.5 years ago, changed our policy when we went on. Changed our policy already decades ago when we had that commitment to decarbonize completely. I finished Belgium myself already in 2007, Volvo trucks started to use the factory again. We still operate from there. So that was already before the first wave of consciousness around climate urgency becoming apparent. In my previous role, I was managing director for the Volvo Group. And for us, where we were talking about science and demonstrate, and that's why I'm so confident that we have the ability to supply drugs. That is it. Trying or prototyping is done. Back in 2018, as managing director, I had the ability to show to the world that the prototype of the heavy full electric truck, the Port of Hamburg. That was a goosebump moment for me personally, but created a lot of waves. 2019, that is already 4 years, have industrialized carbon neutral steel built by trucks. Also in France, and that we are already supplying. Close to 2,000 Volvo trucks already on the globe operating. Have an order book of over 5,000 units already made. With the order from logistics, we can safely say that we are going to pass the 6,000 units already this week. From that aspect, that the engagement that Volvo Trucks has to decarbonize the complete transport is very tangible. We have everything from a with the heavy load truck, the elevated, completely decarbonized battery electric vehicles that are already available today. It's a full
Great, thanks a lot. So I actually have a question for all of you or one of you, and then maybe we can open up to questions in the audience. So when I speak to companies talking about the First Movers Coalition, usually the intuitive response, especially from procurement colleagues, is we don't know what the supply is going to be in 2030. How could we possibly make that jump and take that perceived risk to commit to procuring something that may not exist by 2030? And we're talking about the really transformational low carbon solutions and technologies. Electric trucks do exist, but maybe not at the scale that they need to, but across other sectors as well. We don't know. It's very likely that there will be good supply, but particularly when it comes to emerging economies as well, the supply may not be there. So what would you say to a company that's thinking they're dedicated to climate, they want to reduce their emissions across their supply chains, but they're not certain, they're not sure if the technology will be there for them to make that procurement commitment? Any takers on that piece?
I'm happy to pick up on that, Nathan. I have learned that if you don't aim for the stars, you will never reach the moon. And we want to go to the moon and beyond. just like Magali, we make a very strong commitment towards all stakeholders. And that is by 2030, and that is virtually tomorrow, 2030 is virtually tomorrow. 50% of all the trucks that we are producing are going to be zero tailpipe emission. That is an enormous step from today. But we have a firm belief that it will go exponential. It's not going to go, let's say, rhythmic. It's going to go exponential. So in the United Kingdom, I'm sure that we are going to deliver already this year, give and take, around 200 electric trucks. Next year, we are aiming 500. And the years following upon that, it's going to go exponential. To reach a 50% global target, Europe will have to contribute 70% to that figure to decarbonize 50% by 2030. And that is a commitment. You can read that in everything we publish, and it's a commitment not only to the First Movers Coalition, it is also a commitment towards you guys, because I see a lot of young people in the audience, that we are taking this decarbonization and making that part climate neutral very seriously. And there will be not one silver bullet, sorry Magali, there will not be one silver bullet in this solution. You know, you have battery electric vehicles, that's definitely like that. We are already testing hydrogen electric vehicles, so fuel cell electric vehicles. And we believe firmly that no authority should forbid technology in the quest of carbon neutrality. So I am very much advocating not to forbid combustion engines, because they are going to be part of the solution, because we believe that we will have combustion engines that are perfectly capable of running out of renewable energies, whether it is direct hydrogen or alternatives. So let's not be dogmatic in our approach, and let's be very pragmatic in the implementation of it, and we do not limit ourselves to particular solutions.
Great, thank you very much. And that actually raises an important point. With the First Movers Coalition, I think what's essential for having these early demand commitments is that we're technology agnostic. In First Movers Coalition, we define the technology that we want to see in terms of greenhouse gas criteria and abatement potential as well, rather than picking the winners and specifying specific technologies. So we're really looking at the greenhouse gas emissions aspect. Magali, did you want to come in on this point?
Yeah, I wanted to come in because I mentioned how we were going to buy trucks from Volvo, but we are also part of FMC, we're also a supplier. And we committed to deliver what is called near zero cement, or concrete, sorry, near zero concrete by 2030, because some other organization committed that by 2030, 10% of the concrete they will buy will be near zero. Now, what does it take to do near zero concrete? We actually know very well it takes to do carbon capture, utilization, and storage. So it's not like it's a completely crazy technology. It's just a technology that requires now investment, time, contribution from the full value chain, contribution from startups, inventors, etc., etc. But we have put in our target for 2030 in our climate report that we issued for the second time this year, the fact that there will be 5 million tons of CO2 captured by 2030 in our operation, which is roughly 7-8 million tons of cement, which makes concrete after, will be available net zero by 2030. Now, it's great to commit that, and because we committed, we will do it, because that's what you have to do when you commit as a big company, and that's also your question about people who are concerned with the technology arrive. Well, company like ours, when we commit to something, we just have no choice than delivering, so you can trust it, because if not, our shareholders come and smack us big time, so we can't really play with that. But it's also to know that the market is there. Just to put things in perspective for a second, if you build a house, the concrete will be about 5% of the cost of your house. If tomorrow, and it will be about 30 to 40% of the embodied carbon. If I come and tell you I can make it net zero, are you happy to pay 40% more? The total impact on the cost of your house will be 2%. I always ask people, how much do you pay to buy organic food instead of non-organic food? on a daily basis. So is that 2% such a huge difference at the end? So that's why I'm a true believer the market can exist. We just need to break this chicken and egg thing, and that's really where FMC has a key role to play.
Great, thanks a lot. And that's actually a very interesting statistic as well. So we talked about carbon dioxide removal. Do we have a question in the audience? Yeah, no, go ahead. Do we have a mic over there?
Thank you. So, thank you very much.
If you'd like to introduce yourself as well, yeah.
Toby Stanway, I'm ex-upstream oil industry, now academically in the CCS field, in the carbon capture and storage field. So direct air capture is currently more expensive due to the energy costs compared to at-source capture and transport and storage, geological storage I'm talking about. But it does have the advantage of being less complex in terms of retrofit and transport and physical connection, so to speak. So how do you see the balance of that evolving over time and as a solution for the hard-to-abate sectors?
Sorry, I did not hear very well, but you are asking me direct air capture versus CCUS. So in fact, the flue gas that come out of my chimney is way more concentrated in carbon than direct air capture. So literally, I think direct air capture, when you look at the numbers, is anywhere between 50 to 100 times more expensive than capturing the flue gas from a chimney. So I had a debate with scientists sometime where they tell me, yes, but direct air capture removes CO2 when that is already there, when you are just stopping CO2 from coming. And I answered him, well, if for the same price, I can stop 1 ton to go to the atmosphere, but for the same price, for the same price of removing 1 ton from the atmosphere of CO2, I can capture 100 million tons and stopping it from adding. Maybe we should do the 100 million ton first. So there is an accounting issue of GHG protocol. So the people that put money in DAC cannot divert that money to buy flue gas. But it's actually sad. If we could solve that problem, we could really accelerate and go much faster by capturing first the concentrated CO2 gas instead of what's in the atmosphere today. I don't know if that answers your question.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? Yeah, so we have 2 questions at the front. You can maybe use my mic. If you want to introduce yourself as well, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm Jad Hussain, working for ABB, Senior Capture Team Lead for Large Projects. Since we are talking about supply and demand, and supply and demand for accelerating to net zero, and you've mentioned a very good example by saying that if I make your concrete net zero, will you be able to, or are you willing to pay 40% more for that? Which is lead to my questions. What will happen if we see that people are not willing to pay premium price for net zero? Are we going to see some company give up their net zero commitment, or are we going to see a company commit more actually to decarbonize their production?
Call me optimistic if you want, but I truly believe that there is such a will. Sorry, because you are taking my example, so I assume you're asking me. But
did you want to comment on that?
I think there is such a movement happening right now that's why I gave the example of organic food. Who is eating organic food here? Can you raise hands? So you guys go every day and are quite happy to pay 30-40% more for your food that you would normally pay for normal food. Are you crazy? See what I mean? I think that movement is going to happen. So the customer demand will be such that people will do it. And again, the impact on the total cost of the house is very little. That's why I gave that example. I don't know if the price of net zero cement will be 40%. I have no idea. It's too early to say. I'm just trying to explain that the impact at the end is small when people are ready to make way more sacrifices right now, right today, to have better agricultural practices, for example. So that's why I'm very confident that that movement is happening, and it's going to happen. But maybe, Christian,
yeah. Bruce, if you want to comment on that point, then we'll hand over to you.
Yeah, just briefly, and to run off exactly what you were saying there. I mean, certainly in terms of the companies that we're working with in the innovation space, they're doing obviously trials to deliver these new low decarbonised products right across these sectors, and those who are really first movers on the producer side are talking, in great detail and forming collaborations with their suppliers. And I know full well, not going to name names, but definitely trials have been run to produce such materials, so we know how to do it. We also know that they are X% more expensive at the moment than current production, but the purchasers of those goods, who were really determined to be first movers, they are saying, actually, we will still work with you right now, and we will take at least a certain amount of that production at that higher price, because we want it now for our market and our customers are demanding it. So it is happening, definitely.
It's a question of putting the money there where your mouth is. Yeah? So from our perspective as well, we were part of the founding and the funding partners of the First Movers Coalition, because we firmly believe in it. And indeed, the technology is definitely more expensive as we speak today. And I'm a bit like Magali, am I a dreamer or a believer? I am, certainly. But the more that you can optimize your production around carbon neutrality, the more that more cost is leveling out. And we need to find that momentum. And indeed, we also publish our commitment, and we have an active dialogue also with the shareholder that this doesn't come without sacrifices from everyone in the value chain. But we are committed from our end, with the First Movers Coalition, to do our fair share and above that fair share in order to reach that zero carbon emission that we want in order to have a higher goal being met. But we cannot be blindly looking just at what it is today. We need to be aware that there will be efficiencies, there will be, let's say, a higher volume, that you can have the ability to write off new technologies that will level out that one, that, your tomato that you're buying, which is then more sustainable, and the other one is leveling out.
Thank you. So we have another question in the front. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Kate Griffin. I'm a writer. It's another question for Magali, I'm afraid, about concrete and cement. I know the industry is doing a lot to reduce its carbon impact and its emissions. I wondered if you also had a strategy for reducing your water use and, to cause less water stress, as well as reducing carbon emissions.
I'm really happy you are asking this question, because actually, yes, we do. We do a lot. We were part of the people pushing for Target 15 at the COP15 in Montreal last year. So having companies making more disclosures. So we have a commitment on water. We have a commitment on water to reduce the freshwater withdrawal from our process use, but also to, by 2030, in all the water scarce area, each plant will be net zero in water. So that's a commitment, but we also have a commitment on biodiversity based on science. And basically, we developed a biodiversity indicator reporting system. We committed that by 2024, we will have the indicator for all our managed land. And by 2030, that indicator will have improved. That's how we defined our own nature positive future. And we did that with IUCN. But the reason I'm really happy about your question is because yesterday, SBTN, so for people who don't know SBTN, it's like SBTI, but N, actually for network, but really for nature, selected 17 companies to be the first people to have their nature strategy validated, and we are one of them. So we are extremely proud of that. Thank you. I didn't pay her for the question.
Plant a question. No, thank you. Thanks a lot for that. So I think we had another question in the back as well, the gentleman with glasses. If you can pass the mic over to him.
Thanks very much. Keith Croysdale from Lux for Gas Cylinders and the Hydrogen Energy Association. I was at a meeting yesterday and some clever people were telling me that hydrogen will be cheaper than diesel sometime between 2030 and 2035.
Sorry, could you just speak a bit louder, please?
Okay, sorry. Keith Croysdale from Luxfer. We make gas cylinders and we're heavily into the hydrogen market. I'm also a member of the Hydrogen Energy Association. Some clever people were telling me yesterday that the price of the relative price for hydrogen in terms of calorific value will be cheaper in 2030 or 2032 than diesel. Does the panel see this as being one of the watershed moments for the market? And I mean, in particular, I suppose in terms of cement manufacture, but also in terms of truck, if this is indeed true, driven by the massive investment in hydrogen production, what difference is it going to make?
Great, thanks. So just to repeat the question from the gentleman, we had a question around, given the actual and expected reduction in the price of green hydrogen, what effects and what benefits can that give for specific sectors, including trucks and including other sectors? So the question is on green hydrogen, if you have any thoughts on that.
Effectively, we didn't understand anything. There is too much background noise and the loudspeakers are turned towards you, which is a good thing, and not towards us. But I will try to give an answer upon that. Indeed, when we speak today, the availability is limited of green hydrogen. But that is what Magali said before. It's the chicken or the egg discussion. There is a necessity to create green hydrogen in order to have a solution for fuel cell electric vehicles. And that will not only be for the heavy transport, that will also be part also in the car industry, that there is going to be a necessity upon that. So definitely. That there is a task for the whole value chain. And when I said, we need an authority that invests in it, we need, from our perspective, customers that need to invest in it, and we need to invest in it in order to make those solutions all workable. Now, from that aspect, yes, there is a limitation now in the offering, but that shouldn't stop us from developing the technology that is required in order to have a decarbonisation of our industry. Now, when there is a limitation, then there is an opportunity for somebody else to invest in it, so that limitation is not there anymore when the serial production of that kind of technology will be there in 5 to 6 years from now. I hope that is more or less in the direct. Thank you.
I see a thumbs up there. Right, I think we have time for one last question, and I think we have it in the center here. Maybe two if it's a short one and not too complex. And then we can wrap up.
Hi, I'm Reva from LEK Consulting. Thank you so much for the talk so far. It's great to see you taking sort of advancements and being first movers, but I'm sure there are challenges associated with that. So what are the sort of main difficulties that you face being a first mover in these hard to abate sectors or full of opportunity sectors?
There is a clear choice to be made. If you say that there is a challenge in taking that direction, there is also a golden opportunity in taking that direction. I think, that we are all convinced that there is a necessity that things are being done and without further delay. So that we turn it into what we call an opportunity of a lifetime or a golden opportunity, whatever you want to call it, in order, let's say, to be first in. So I don't see it too much as a challenge. It is a challenge, but it is more of an opportunity. And of course, with having partnerships like we do with Holcim, it gives us the platform to be able, let's say, from a position of strength, to develop the necessity. And it's really a master moment in which we are going to change our industry completely. So it is the biggest change that we have seen since we went from horse and carriages to combustion. So the momentum is now that we move away from the classical combustion to now carbon neutral. From the Volvo perspective, and also Holcim has the same vision as first mover here, we see it rather as an opportunity than a challenge. So don't see it as a threat. If you're afraid of something, you will lose out. When you see it as an opportunity, I'm sure that you can make a difference. Is that okay?
Magali, did you have any?
Maybe just one word. Fully agreed with everything that was said, but I think it really, the main challenge maybe we had is we are in quite conservative companies, so conservative, sector. So there was a bit of hesitance at being the first movers because you don't know, someone has to test the water. And I don't know if you saw in my title, it's written that I'm part of the group executive. And I think that's where it happened, is the fact that when we decided that sustainability was going to be part of the strategic thinking of the company, every discussion, etc. So it's no more a side topic. It's entirely embedded in everything we do. And that ironed out every single challenge we had, and the rest is all opportunities, like Christian just said.
Thank you. And definitely something that we've been hearing from companies as well. This does require a leap of imagination and bold leadership as well, and requires the whole executive board and the CEO to be bought in to make that leap. Okay, we actually have one more time for one more quick question, and then we can wrap up. Over to you, and if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Marco Tolini. Creating rapid change requires ecosystem approach, and I guess that is one of the key principles underpinning the First Movers Coalition. Question is, how does the coalition actually work in terms of choosing particular themes and particular programs? So is there a kind of a programming platform, and also companies, startups and others, how can they get engaged in the various initiatives that are popping up in the First Movers Coalition?
Great, good question. So the First Movers Coalition is very simple theory of change. We looked at the science and saw that, as I mentioned, the majority of emissions across the full of opportunity sectors, the hard to abate sectors, need to come from technology that doesn't exist. What's the best way to pull that innovation through, leveraging the leadership and the demand power from the private sector? So actually each and every company has set at least one specific early demand signal procurement commitment by 2030 to procure near zero emission technologies by 2030. Many companies that we see on the panel as well have set additional commitments. So if there are, a broader call, if there are any companies that are interested or ecosystem players, please do reach out to myself and we can have that conversation. Probably a great one to end on. So thanks everyone for joining. I think the kind of key takeaways is this requires leadership and bold leadership, but there are first movers that really see sustainability as integral to the business strategy and to building future-proof supply chains as well. So I'd like to thank the panelists here and really look forward to having this conversation going forward as well with the audience and panelists. So thanks a lot, everybody.